This is the CNC room, otherwise known as the fireplace room. It has a CNC router and a 3D printer. And in addition to those, it also has the fourth of the giant lithium batteries. The other three are on the carver. 5.63 kilowatt hours. But it's a used battery, although it has more than 60% of that left. Each of the batteries holds in excess of 3 kilowatt hours still. So I've unplugged some plugs to let me lift the front cover off completely. This fan is 24 volts and very loud, so it's going to be changed out for a different one. And this box here is the battery management circuit, but it's proprietary and works with other circuits outside the battery, so I'm going to be replacing it with an off-the-shelf battery management system. It's for 8S, which means 8 cells in series and lithium iron phosphate chemistry. And its purpose is to monitor every cell in the battery and disconnect if any single cell is too high or too low of a voltage. This is an active cell balancer, and its job is to keep all the cells at the same voltage. The BMS would normally do that, but its balance current is milliamps, and it's not enough for a battery this big. The active balancer has a 5 amp balance current. And this device also connects to every cell in the battery to monitor voltages. And it has a little screen that will show me the voltage of every cell in the battery, its full charge of the entire stack, as well as the difference between cells. I put the lid on upside down to verify that all the things will fit inside, because the fan was still in the way. And this is a map of that plug that's still in that compartment, the last thing left of the original battery. And I've mapped out the pins that go to each cell so I can connect my circuits that monitor all the cells in the battery. And so now I'm going to get that fan out of the way. These 4 screws, you can turn them forever because they have a nut on the back that you have to hold while unscrewing the screw. And bolts, I guess, are surprisingly long. So I used a drill to back them out because it was a lot quicker. And once I've got the fan removed, then I'm going to continue on and remove that BMS as well from in the front compartment. I'm also removing this plug that let external circuits monitor the battery, and the wires from my own battery monitor will go through the hole that that plug was originally in. So now I've connected a wiring harness to the BMS, and once again verifying that the lid will fit with all those things in there. That wiring harness with a whole bunch of red wires connects to each cell in the battery, and those are split 3 ways. One set goes to this monitor. The red set on the right will go to the BMS. Here you can see on the left, 22.5 volts and 170 millivolts difference between cells. These wires go to the active balancer that once it's connected is going to bring that number way down. the difference between cells. So everything is split 3 ways. And I'm drilling 2 holes in the housing that lead into that little hollow space where my circuits are. And I'm being very careful not to drill into like the part of the battery with the cells. And I'm making sure that the holes are big enough for the thick wires coming out of the battery management circuit. The blue wire will be connected to the negative terminal of the battery. And the thick black wire on the BMS will become the new managed and protected negative terminal of the battery. So screwing the blue wire to the negative terminal. And this piece of cardboard has a diagram of all the connections. And it's going to stay in here as an insulator and protector for some exposed connections on the back of the active balancer. And now that everything's connected, you can see on the left 80 millivolts difference between the cells, so the active balancer is working. And that's going to come much further down. See, it's 42 millivolts now. The battery's being charged. It's 24.17 volts. Now it's 26, and 6 millivolts difference between cells. So a great job by my active balancer of actually balancing the battery while it's being charged. And here it's connected to a battery charger and an inverter. And I've routed the wires for the active balancer and the BMS, and I've added some things to the lid. This silver circuit in the center creates 12 volts from the 24, which will go to the circuit breaker, a switch, and then some 12 volt outlets and a USB charger. The red and the black wires go to 24 volts, and the other black and yellow that go inside are the 12 volts. And here are the connections that I made to the circuit breaker, the switch, and the 3 sockets. And this all has to be pretty compact to fit in what little space is left available in that housing. But after a little bending of terminal posts and rearranging of wires, this time it does fit in there. And I can turn on the switch and the fan runs, and I can also see 12 volts displayed on the little display on the USB charge port. So having verified that everything still works after getting the lid in place, I can finally put in the screws and seal the lid up, and I'm through working inside this particular battery. The same thing will have to be done to each of the other 3 in the boat, with the exception of some of this stuff that I'm adding. A bit of a spark there, because there are capacitors apparently in that circuit that makes the 12 volts. So once again, verifying that everything is in working order. The next thing is to crimp a lug on the end of that wire so I can more or less permanently connect the 12 volt circuit to the battery itself. And with that connected, I can attach my little monitor screen. It's just stuck to the front of the battery with double-sided VHB tape. And this is what the battery looks like now that it's finished. And I can turn on the 12-volt converter, the fan starts, and I'm getting a display on the USB charger, 12.3 volts. And my monitor, once again, I'm seeing the voltage of every cell in the battery. We're down to 5 millivolts difference between cells now, and the battery is 62% charged. And that's where the 2 USB ports are. That 12.3 volts is not on the USB, it's like the 12 volts from the converter that's going in. And this is now a power wall that can run my refrigerator for at least a week if I have a power failure due to a hurricane or some other end of the world scenario. Next time we'll do the ones on the carver.